Greetings campers and welcome to the Death Twitch Horror Review. I'll be your not so humble horror host, Eric Harrison. The unluckiest day of the year is upon us yet again, so as you know, as a horror fan, I am legally and morally obligated to do a video talking about Friday the 13th, the franchise. If I didn't, the horror police would show up at my door with a lot of questions and nobody wants that. So, I am doing a countdown here and you know, we've been talking about this franchise for almost 40 years ad nauseum. There isn't really anything original left to say, but I tried to take it into a different direction a little bit, at least not your typical, you know, top 13 kills of the franchise. So I present to you... Alright gang, so right before we jump into this, I just want to clarify that even though the title is 13 Most Confusing Things About the Series, we're not talking about the TV series Friday the 13th. We're talking strictly about the movie franchise. And no, we're not referring to anything that's in novelizations or comic books either. This is strictly about the film franchises. This is a countdown from 13 to 1, 13 being least confusing, 1 being the most confusing to me. Let's jump into this. So... Alright, so coming in at number 13 from Friday 2, we've got How the Fuck Did Jason Find Alice? So the general idea is that she kind of went back to the area a few months after the events of Part 1 in order to face her trauma and her fears about what happened. But, as stated in the original movie...
Why don't we just hike out of here? Just get out, right now.
Look, it's 10 miles to the nearest crossroads.
Crystal Lake is at least 10 miles from anything else. So if she's living in a house in a bit of a town, it's going to be a ways away. How exactly did Jason track her down right to her house? Okay, so I've grouped some of these together, and coming in at number 12, we got Friday 2 again with Who's P and Why. So, in Friday the 13th Part 2, we're introduced to the character Jenny, who is clearly presented as a very intelligent, very capable character. She's better than everyone at everything all the time. But then she's being chased by a psychotic potato-sacked killer. She hides under a bed, and a rat shows up. And then there's P? Then somebody pees. Did Jenny pee? Did the rat pee? And did Jason hear the pee? Did he smell it? How does he know that somebody peed? But seriously though, if she's so capable of doing all these things, she's like, she can beat people at chess, she can weld a chainsaw, she can take on anybody and anything, but a rat, no, I guess she lost it there. Okay, so coming in at number 11, we got the final one for Friday the 13th Part 2, and it's the infamous "Where's Paul?" question. Honestly, if this question was never even posed by the character of Jenny herself, I probably wouldn't have thought of it, but now that she brings it up...
Where's Paul?
That is a good question. Where is Paul? Because, like, we know that Jason jumping through the window was a dream sequence, but where does the dream start and where did it end? But, like, yeah, so she wants to know, I want to know, what the fuck happened to Paul? Okay, so jumping in at number 10 from Friday 4, the final chapter, we've got the question of what the fuck happened to Gordon? Gordon the dog, introduced in this movie as the pet of the Jarvis family, always hanging out there with little Tommy. Not only is it the question what happened to him, because it's really uncertain, and I guess the filmmakers had to leave that ambiguous for a reason, because like who really wants to see Jason kill a dog? But it's like, he has an encounter with Jason, and then we hear the dog make a sound, and then he's just kind of jumping through a window, never to be heard from again. So not only is the question, what the fuck went down there? What happened to Gordon? But like, why is he even in this movie, to be honest with you? I guess people have pets, it's just a normal thing, but like, why is he in the movie and he doesn't do anything cool, like try and defend Tommy against Jason? That would have made more sense if there was some kind of actual confrontation there between the dog and Jason while Gordon is trying to protect his owner, and then Jason tosses his ass out the window. That would have actually made some sense, and I think they would have earned that scene in the movie. But instead, we're left with this really ambiguous, what the hell happened to Gordon? Alright, so coming in at number 9 from Fridays 5 and 6, the question is, was he cremated or buried? Now, of course, we know that the producers were trying to continue to cash in on their cash cow Friday the 13th, but they felt they needed to start things over. So they brought in the Roy character and they tried to change things up. I guess they were really trying to emphasize that Jason's dead and gone by having this line in the movie.
Jason Voorhees? You're out of your fucking mind. You've been out in the sun too long. Jason Voorhees is dead. His body was cremated. He's nothing but a handful of ash.
Okay, so he's been cremated. And then in the next movie, he got dug up from the cemetery that he was buried in. They just couldn't really figure out what happened to Jason. They needed to bring him back, so I guess he wasn't cremated after all. All right, so number 8, we're still sticking with Friday 5, A New Beginning, and the question is a good one. Why didn't Roy the paramedic kill the one guy that killed his son? Granted, the dude was probably in a jail cell, but even he could have waited till he got out on bail. He could have went straight to the jail and killed everybody there. Why not? And instead of killing the one guy that actually set him off to go on this killing spree, he just kind of kills all these innocent kids. Sure, they're a little fucking screwy, but did they really deserve to be chopped up? No, they're not the ones that killed his son. It's a good question. So he just let the one guy get away? Why didn't Roy kill the one guy that killed his kid? Okay, so number 7 on the list, we've got Friday the 13th, Part 8 from Jason Takes Manhattan. And the question has been asked numerous times, and I'm going to ask it again here. How the fuck did that boat get from Crystal Lake to the ocean in order to get to the larger boat? Yeah, they didn't give us any answers except for Crazy Ralph Jr. saying,
Jason Voorhees.
You're insane. Jason Voorhees has been dead for years.
He came down the river and he's gotten on board.
he went up the river or some shit. Okay, so now I guess there's a river. They had to invent a river. Whatever. But that's the question. How the fuck did he get this little boat out to the ocean? Coming in at number 6, we're still on Friday 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, and the problem of the teleporting Jason. How the fuck is he doing this? Because look, you know, Jason, he can walk pretty fast, keep up with you. No matter how fast you're running, of course, you'll inevitably trip. But still, he does seem to pop up around places right when it seems convenient, him hanging outside the window in part 4 just to toss the girl down, stuff like that. But it was never this bad. Now it's just straight up supernatural at this point. So basically he's an apparition. He can just manifest wherever he wants. I think that's going a little too far, guys. What the fuck is up with teleporting Jason? Oh, number 5. We're still sticking around this damn Friday 8 Jason Takes Manhattan because a lot of questions were raised during that movie. Okay, the big one, like, this is weird. How the fuck does some toxic waste turn a big ass, dead ass, mutated ass Jason into some normal looking little kid? And how and why? And he's got boxers on and like, what the fuck? What? Just what the fuck? Okay, so number 4 we've got from the original 2 Friday the 13th part 1 and 2 is that when they killed off Pamela Voorhees in the first one and they wanted to continue the series, they needed to bring in another killer. And they decided Jason was a good idea. But of course, Jason drowned in the original movies. They had to come up with a way of excusing that in order to bring Jason in to be the killer. We're not given a lot to work with at all. And in fact, in part 2, the character Jenny is theorizing about what might have happened. She says, he must have not drowned, he must have seen his mom get beheaded. And that's all we're given to go on. But based on that, the question is, why didn't Jason save his mom then? If he was watching, why didn't he do something? Why didn't he show up? Why didn't he present himself and say, hey mom, look, I didn't drown. It's all good. Or at the very least, just show up and try and stop Alice from killing his mom. Why just sit there and watch it happen? All right, so coming in number 3, most confusing things about the series is that Crystal Lake as a location itself. So in the original, it's a campground out in the middle of nowhere. They even specify that it's at least 10 miles from anything else. But then as the series goes on, we've got, oh, okay, Camp Packanack is on the same lake, apparently, as they say.
It's Camp Blood. This place is on the same lake as we're gonna be.
Higgins Haven is on this lake. Oh, whatever the location is from part 4 is apparently on this lake. And it goes on and on and on. All these movies, it eventually becomes a swamp in part 7. It's just confusing because it's never the same lake. It never looks the same. And how did it go from just being an isolated campground to suddenly all of these locations are all right there on the lake when we clearly never seen them in the first movie? All right, coming in at number 2, we've got the timeline of the series itself. Now, that is confusing, to say the least. I'm not going to go into real great detail here. You could go and try and research it yourself to figure this one out. But it is confusing because the original takes place in 1979. Part 2 is 5 years later. And then 2, 3, and 4 all happen within days of each other. But after that, they just start jumping ahead years and decades, or like just long periods ahead in time. So that by the time we get to Friday 7, it's literally supposed to be 2001 at this point. And you get to Friday 8, it's supposed to be 2002. And yet everything still looks hella 80s. They weren't thinking things through. They were just thinking, oh, we need to get another Friday out there and rake in the dough. Alright, so coming in at number 1, guys, this is it. The most confusing thing about the Friday the 13th franchise to me is all of Jason Goes to Hell. The whole movie, all of it, the whole movie. Because, look, this fucking movie could have took up the whole list. We've got, like, what the fuck? We've got Jason had a sister the whole time. She stayed around the lake and the camp the whole time, even though Jason's been murdering people for decades. We've got worm, demons, Jason jumping from body to body. Why is he shaving this guy? It's like, oh... that fucking movie. I'm having some Vietnam flashbacks right now just trying to talk about it. Yeah, that's the number 1 most confusing thing about the whole franchise, if you ask me, is Jason Goes to Hell. What the actual fuck? Alright, guys. Hey, that was hella fun. Thanks for joining me. Go out there, do your thing. I'm sure everything will be fine. Drink it up, smoke it up, get yourself laid. I'm pretty sure... homicidal mass killer is not going to come, but there might be a little bit of risk involved. But you take that risk, I'm telling you. Live it up. Alright guys, thanks for joining me, and I'll catch you on the next video. Alright guys, so on my Death Twitch Facebook page, I asked the gang if they had any questions for me about the Friday the 13th series, and they asked about a dozen or so, so we're going to run through those and answer them real fucking fast. We've got Rod Petrie says, what do you think a Friday the 13th movie would be like if it had been directed by John Carpenter? I think that could be pretty fucking awesome. I would like to see a John Carpenter version of a Friday with still the kills and just the formula, but more suspense and more tension. And he could even do a team up with Harry Manfredini to do the score. I think a John Carpenter Friday the 13th would be pretty interesting watch. Brian Gatto's asking, what's your least favorite decade of horror pre the 2000s? And that would be the 1990s. I thought about all the decades and I really like them all. When I say this a lot and I mean it. I like horror from the 80s all the way back to the 30s, but basically back to the beginning of cinema. But there's something about the 90s. They had some good ones. Candyman, Silence of the Lambs, probably a few others, but like... they had Scream and Brain Scan. There was some good ones, but I don't find myself revisiting 90s horror very often at all. Alright, Danny is asking, why is Jason such a cock blocker, and what's the best Friday the 13th kill? He's a cock blocker because, I guess because he almost drowned, or did drown, while people were having sex, is the general idea. And the best Friday the 13th kill, in my opinion, I mean, aside from the face in the nitrogen and then it freezes and he smashes it, because that's just a classic. Aside from that kind of thing, I like the one from part 2 where he gets the guy in the wheelchair, fucking machete to the face, and he goes backwards down the stairs, because that's brutal, dude. Shit's hardcore. Alright. Lynette, I think that's how you say it, sorry. Should they have stopped after the final chapter? I'm going to say no, because I always say this and I'm sticking by it. There's a lot of horror franchises I think need a fucking extended rest. But Friday, I just want to always see Jason. And I know the first 4 are very pure and the best ones in the series, and they get pretty iffy after that. Even when they're bad, I still want them to keep making Fridays. I just wish they could go back to basics, that's all. Oh, there's a Harley guy outside. All right, April Cost is asking, who's your least favorite Jason? That'd be Ken Kersinger. Just, it might not have been his fault. The whole slow Frankenstein zombie walk might not have been his call. It could have been Ronnie Yu. But yeah, just all in all, I didn't dig that Jason from Freddy vs. Jason. I wish they had gotten Kane Hodder in there. And I'm a Kane Hodder fan, but I still think all the other ones are great too. So, Jacob's asking thoughts on Cult of Chucky. I thought it sucked. Ren Malone's asking, what would you like to see done in the upcoming Friday the 13th entry? What would you like to see change or what we've never seen before? Well, yeah, I don't know what's even going on with that shit because they said it's on, it's been canceled, no, it's back. I don't, who can fucking keep track of this shit? What would I like to see? I just want to see him go back to basics, honestly. I don't need any gimmicks. I don't need found footage. I don't need Jason in the snow. I don't need Jason in space, on the moon. I don't need gimmicks. Just give us a fucking Friday on the lake during the summer with some fucking likable characters that we, unfortunately, we have to watch them die. It's so simple. So simple. But as far as what's never been done before, I don't... you know what? He could bring his mom back and they could be a team. Because if Jason can come back, why can't his mom? And just sew her head back on and we'll have a killer team. The Voorhees team. I'm going to pronounce this wrong. Momir? Who do you think is the better, Jason or Michael Myers? Well, I love them both. It's really hard to pick. I have to lean towards Mikey because Halloween being my favorite movie. And he is like the grandfather of all slashers, if you ask me. Not the first, but still, he's the boogeyman, right? Jason is, it's pretty much a tie. But if I had to pick, I'm going to go with Michael. Sorry, J-Man. Raiders AK, how long would you last in a horror movie, considering how long would you last with all the horror knowledge that I have? I'd like to think that I would at least last till the 3rd act, but I don't think I would survive. I wouldn't be a final girl. But yeah, you know, I'd like to think that I would know a little bit. Of course, I drink and I smoke too much to survive the whole movie, so it just can't happen. All right, Dino's asking, what's the best written and directed of all the Friday movies? And I'd have to say, Part 4, I think, is the most solid written and directed movie, the final chapter. But Part 6 has really got a lot of fun stuff going on in there, and that was because the director brought that in. He brought that too. He tried to reinvigorate the series. So it's kind of a tie, but I'd probably go with 4 because it's just a really solid entry. We're almost done here. Rob O'Connor's asking to name the killer in Friday the 13th. That would be Mrs. Voorhees, who would later be revealed as Pamela Voorhees. And then the tradition is passed on to her son, Jason Voorhees. I hope I passed your little test there. Shane's asking, which unmasked version of Jason do you hate the most? It'd be Part 2. The whole look, I mean, when he's got the bag on, the bag is cool. I like the bag, but once the bag comes off, he just looks like a shitty hillbilly, well, with his fucking outfit, overalls, and like red hair, scraggly. I don't know. I don't like Part 2 looking Jason once the mask is off. Good question, though. Colin's asking, was Freddy vs. Jason more of a home run or more of a dud? And I'd say it was a home run. I enjoyed it. It's a movie where you got Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees together. I wasn't expecting an Oscar-like worthy movie here. I got exactly what I was expecting out of a Freddy vs. Jason movie. And I remember it was a big-ass hit when it came out. I went to the theater twice, and it was always packed. And, you know, I think it was good. Not everybody agrees, but for me, it was a home run-ish. Mostly a home run. Jim Garrison's hottest chick in the series besides the one in the beginning of Jason Goes to Hell. So I'm going to stick with Dana Kimmel. I always say that, but I just got to because she was such a cutie in that movie. Just cutie. Because she was like hot, but she also looked humble. She just looked down to earth. She was a babe. She was a babe. And also, from Part 4, I liked the hotter of the two twins, not the ugly one. I'm kidding, they were both attractive, but the twins were pretty cute too. So That would be my second. Okay, almost done here. Curtis is asking, are you excited for Never Hike Alone? Not really. Don't care about fan films. But I'll probably wind up seeing it, depending on what I hear. Let's see. Samuel's asking, do you think they should do another movie of Freddy versus Jason versus Ash? Ash, not ass. I want another Freddy versus Jason 2. I don't think we need Ash in there. He's doing his own thing on this TV series, and that's going fine. I don't necessarily want Ash and Freddy in the same movie, exchanging quips and one-liners. I'll take just Freddy versus Jason 2. And if you had to throw an extra horror guy in there, Leatherface would be the shit, right? Luke's asking, why was Jason Goes to Hell so bad that I had to kill my neighbor's cat? We're all still wondering that question, guy. New Line Cinema did not know what the fuck to do with a Friday the 13th movie, apparently. They had been dealing in Freddy and nightmares and dream sequences. Once they got their hands on a Friday the 13th, they had no idea what the fuck to do. Jeremy Hahn is asking, did you ever watch Monster Vision back in the day? So clearly somebody did not watch my Slaughter High review, but the answer to your question is Monster Vision and Joe Bob Briggs is the inspiration for this whole channel. I would just sit there every Saturday night watching Joe Bob. He was the shit. He knew everything that there was to know about every horror movie all the time. He didn't take shit from anybody. He stood up against the network itself. He stood up against feminists that were always bitching about him. He would just talk shit, and I loved it. I definitely have to say Monster Vision and Joe Bob Briggs is the main inspiration for this channel here. All right, guys, so it's just an extra special thanks to my Patreons, present and past. Anybody who's ever donated in the past before, whether you did it on Patreon or you did it through PayPal or however. I don't do this for the money, but the fact that some people are willing to throw a few bucks my way, I'm always in need of it, so I appreciate it. So yeah, extra special thanks to everybody donated, everybody that watches. You know, I'm kissing your guys' ass, you know how it goes. But anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.